continue to count down the days until March 2020 when we can finally get our hands on that Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's fine, we've waited 22 years. In theory, we can wait another 8 months. We've been agonising over the little details. There's so much that we don't yet know about what'll be covered, who'll be in it, and how it'll all be portrayed. It's impossible not to let our minds wander and our imaginations take over. And we kind of like to think of ourselves as Final Fantasy VII experts, if we do say so ourselves. So why not let us know whether you think any of these ideas might just come to pass, given what we now know about the upcoming game. Here are 6 Final Fantasy VII predictions that we really hope happen. Oh, and watch out, spoiler warning if you've never played the original. We have plenty of videos for you on the way very soon.
Get going.
We cannot wait to see Red 13 in all his flamey glory in the remake, but we wonder if his introduction won't be altered somewhat. If you remember, he first comes into contact with the playable party when creepy-as-heck scientist Hojo tries to forcefully breed Red 13, who looks like a sort of cross between a wolf and a lion, but also kind of on fire, with Aerith, a human woman. Yeah, that particular plot quirk could probably do with a big old rewrite, but then again, it does set up very early on just how twisted Hojo is. Perhaps there's a halfway house where he has them in a tank, like the original, but he's got them on slabs and tries to extract DNA from them in a, well, more scientific way? The mild threat of bestiality aside, we're so excited to see a remade version of Red 13, aka Nanaki, particularly because out of all of the original cast, he's the one party member we've seen the least of. He was barely given any screen time in the multiple compilation of Final Fantasy VII spin-offs. It'll be fascinating to see how and indeed if they change his gameplay to be different than that of all of his two-legged colleagues. And let's not forget, with remake episodes to come, we get to see his grandfather, Bugenhagen, whizzing around on his levitating green orb while we listen to the remastered Cosmo Canyon theme. Best family ever. So, of course, with any game that depicts the entirety of events from Final Fantasy VII that take place in Midgar, we have to mention Don Corneo's mansion. I mean, there's a reason fans have been talking about this section of the game in particular since news of the remake was announced. And that's because A, the sight of Cloud in drag will be glorious, but also B, that whole segment is going to be incredibly hard to pull off with realistic graphics because it is utterly ridiculous. They go to a clothes shop to have a dress tailored. They go to a brothel to get some lingerie and makeup tips. They discover a pretty seedy sex dungeon. Cloud spins around on the spot and whips off his disguise to reveal his true form. It's that last one that honestly has me wondering about the practicalities more than anything else, to be honest. One of the trailers for the remake shows Cloud, Tifa and Aerith fighting apes in the sewers, which we know takes place immediately after the three fall through a trap set up by the Dawn. When are they going to have time to change? Sure, suspension of disbelief and all that, but these transitions sort of matter when you're going for a more gritty, modern and realistic depiction of events. We'll be interested to see either way. Speaking of gritty though, the game has officially been given a 16+ age rating, so don't get your hopes up over any X-rated content for the Honeybee Inn. You'll just have to satisfy yourselves with a sexy squats challenge instead. The Turks have always been favourites with Final Fantasy VII fans, as the bad guys who were just good enough. I mean, sure, you had to fight them multiple times throughout the game, but they weren't above walking away when things got a bit too real, or teaming up with Cloud and the others to settle scores with Don Corneo in Wutai. The positive community response to the Turks is probably a big reason why Rude and Reno were much less antagonistic towards Final Fantasy VII's heroes in the full-length sequel film Advent Children. Reno became far more playful and a lot less shady, and Rude, being the secret hopeless romantic that he is, puts his life on the line to rescue the children affected by geostigma. We predict Rude and Reno's roles in the remake will be even more on the comic relief side than they were in the original game. Reno will crack more jokes, and any nefarious tasks they have to carry out, like kidnapping Aerith and placing bombs to blow up the Sector 7 pillar, will be downplayed or taken on by another antagonist entirely. They'll still fight the party, but it'll be made even more apparent that it's just a day job for them. On the flip side of this though, we reckon that other Shinra employees, like Scarlet, Hojo, Heidegger and maybe even Palmer, will not be quite so comical. We've already caught a short glimpse of Heidegger in the latest Final Fantasy VII Remake E3 trailer, and he seemed pretty ominous. We're clearly meant to take that character as a serious threat, and not some cringeworthy lackey with a silly laugh. We also think it's unlikely that we'll see Hojo on a beach in full lab coat getup surrounded by bikini babes, as seeing that in full-on photorealistic HD could kill any intimidation we get from him later in the game. This guy is a sick individual who experiments on people and animals. And though the somewhat cartoonish graphics of the original game can't help but downplay that, we're probably going to see him at his most evil in the remake. As we should. No doubt fans of the original game have been watching on with a mixture of pleasure and mild horror, as many newcomers to the series have taken almost immediately to the wonderful characters of Biggs, Wedge, and in particular, Jessie. As Barrett ominously put it in one of the new Final Fantasy VII Remake trailers, nothing worth fighting for was ever won without sacrifice. And in actual fact, these three pay the ultimate sacrifice when Shinra bring down the upper plate on Midgar's Sector 7. Cloud gets to talk to a wounded Jessie one last time, and Wedge dies from a fall after feeling happiness that Cloud remembered his name. They die pretty tragically, in other words, fighting for what they believe is a greater good. Given their limited dialogue and screen time in the original game, it's impressive how much the game made you care about their sacrifice, especially given by that stage they'd already caused quite a few innocent lives to be lost themselves. The remake will no doubt make us feel this tenfold, since their roles are much bigger, dare we say roly-poly Wedge, and more fleshed out this time around. But will it include the fact that they essentially kill scores of people, making their status as heroes pretty debatable? A really heartbreaking side note to all of this is that in the novella Hoshio Meguru Otome, Jessie, Biggs and Wedge appear to Aerith as she travels the life stream after death, speaking with other deceased spirits. They tell her that due to their actions in Midgar that caused so many deaths, they will never be absorbed into the life stream and are essentially banished to their version of purgatory or hell for all eternity. The good news is that it's debatable how canon that novella actually is, so I choose to think they're all happily returned to the live stream after all. Take that, Square Enix. We originally wondered whether Aerith's adoptive mother Elmyra might get cut entirely from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It could make Aerith appear more childlike, or more likely childish, to see her still living at home under her mother's roof. As cute as it is to see her yell, "I'm going out, Mom," as she hits the slums with Cloud, it doesn't exactly scream super cool and composed saviour of the world. Hence we thought that maybe they'd rewrite the story slightly to see Aerith living in that cute little house all by herself. But then we remembered that Elmyra actually serves a pretty important purpose in the original game, providing a free and indefinite babysitting service for Barrett's daughter Marlene. Since nobody wants a 4-year-old girl in their party, it's almost certain that Elmyra will take up the same responsibilities in the remake. It's pretty convenient, really. That said, something tells us that Aerith bringing Cloud back to her house and then Elmyra asking Cloud to leave in the dead of night won't play out exactly the way it did in the original game. Avoiding creaky floorboards is probably not the thing most of us are looking forward to doing with these advanced graphics and gameplay systems. Or maybe I'm wrong. It would be interesting to get a flashback to Elmyra coming across a young Aerith at the train station though, promising Ifalna to take care of her daughter and slowly discovering the extent of Aerith's powers. Okay, buckle up for a bit of a long explanation here. In Final Fantasy VII, cells that came from the extraterrestrial lifeform Jenova, once separated from it, will always seek to return to their original host, influencing the minds of whatever lifeforms they've been implanted in to do so. As Jenova's quote-unquote son, because he was implanted with Jenova cells while still in the womb, Sephiroth can enact his will over those injected with Jenova cells, his cells, without them knowing, calling them to him as he lies dormant in the northern crater. Still with me? Cloud is unknowingly the best of those injected with Jenova cells, but the party encounter many other such individuals along the way, often referred to as Sephiroth clones or Sephiroth copies, or, if the subject loses all sense of themselves, shades of Jenova. This includes pretty much the entire population of Nibelheim minus Tifa Lockhart and her martial arts tutor Zangan, and it also includes some ex-members of Soldier. The thing is, there are different levels of success with these experiments. Some copies are physically fit, while some are extremely frail to the point of and resulting in death. They all appear identical in the original game. Slightly wobbly looking figures completely covered in a black cloak. Pretty conspicuous and not very threatening. We think it's likely that some of these will have a drastically altered appearance in the remake, and we could be getting a sneak peek at this in the latest trailer when Aerith stumbles and grabs a hold of Cloud. As the only successful clone, Cloud would be of great interest to all the other failed experiments, as evidenced by the fact that many of them give the party items in the original game. Perhaps he becomes something of a beacon to any incorporeal shades of Jenova that pass away, and Aerith, being a Cetra, can sense that about him. Are these spooky looking shades the result of experiments that have already failed? Well, we'll find out. But either way, it'd be interesting to see how or if the remake alters this part of Final Fantasy VII's story at all. Whew. Once you start diving into this stuff, you realise just how much there is to pick apart and deconstruct. And it's a lot of fun. What do you think of our theories? Are they more on the Hojo or the Bugenhagen end of the scale? Let us know in the comments, or check out one of our other Final Fantasy VII videos, which should be on screen now. You can also subscribe for more Final Fantasy VII Remake videos, which will be winging their way onto the channel very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!